You open the fridge, there's nothing there. So what's it gonna be? Greasy pizza? Sad drive-thru burgers? Dish by Blue Apron is for nights like that. These are the pre-made meals of your dreams. At least 20 grams of protein, no artificial flavors or colors, no chopping, no cleanup, no guilt. Keep the flavor, ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Welcome back to Come Back with a Warrant podcast. I'm Brandon Dinitz.
And I'm Monica Ashak. Before we kickstart this week's episode, this is your reminder that this podcast is not legal advice. It's real, unfiltered, and for entertainment purposes only. If you need to speak with a lawyer, call one. Or better yet, call us.
Well, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about TV drama versus reality as it applies to the courtroom. For those of you at home, have you ever watched Law and Order or any type of legal drama and thought to yourself, I could do that?
So many people have told me that.
I get that all the time. I hear people say, oh, I'm really good at arguing. I would be a great lawyer.
It's like, there's more that we do.
There's a lot more to it than just that. But the truth is that TV and movies can only highlight the law in a certain way. And as criminal defense attorneys, we get to see criminal law portrayed probably more than anything else in TV and in the movies. Yeah. So there's nothing more frustrating than turning on a movie or TV and seeing, the prosecutor give the absolute best cross-examination ever, where it's so effective. They get the confession right on the stand. It just doesn't happen. No. I know it doesn't happen. And trust me, when I was a prosecutor, I was hoping for those moments where the smoking gun would appear out of nowhere on the stand. There's just so much that goes into it that's just not the way that it is.
Yeah.
Everything from in an episode of Law and Order, you go from arrest to the trial within, 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Meanwhile, in reality, it months.
Takes forever. Right.
Maybe even years. It could take years.
Depending on how serious it is, the case is going to go on for a long time. So there are so many things that TV gets wrong. There are certain shows that get certain ththings right. And even if they get certain things right on accident, right? Like there was a TV show this past year about a jury. And I think it was Juror Number 2 was the movie, if I'm remembering correctly. In that movie, the one thing that I took away, there was so much that was wrong with the movie. But the thing that I took away from it was, is this what jurors are really like in the room? Yeah. Is this what jurors are really thinking? In that, they were taking things into account that they shouldn't have been. They were talking about, oh, did you see this witness's tattoos? Did you see this, that? That is one of the only times I've watched a legal show and thought to myself, oh, this is a little bit scary, because that is potentially realistic and not in the way that I'd want it to be.
Yeah, and I think that does probably happen. We're human. Like, people are human. Like, they make it's so, the law is so, everybody wants to think it's like black and white. And like when judges give the instruction according to what they're supposed to give, obviously, it's like in hopes that everybody is doing their job or playing within their, like, being within their bounds. You know what I mean? Right. So we really do trust the jurors to not engage in that behavior or like do things that they're not supposed to do. But there are times where we've heard things where like people come out later, other jurors who were deliberating with certain jurors that may have done something, and then it comes out and it's like super scary to see, because it's like, these are the people we are entrusting to make really important decisions, and other people like are affected by this, our clients.
Yeah. And for people that may be listening and maybe don't know, the way that the process works, when a jury is sworn in and they are impaneled as the jury that's going to be hearing a case, the judge reads out certain instructions to the jury. And those instructions include things like, don't do any research.
Yeah.
Don't look up this case and try to, find things on the internet about this case. Don't look into the lawyers and try to look up the, who the lawyers are and what they do or their personal lives. There's things that you're specifically instructing these jurors not to do because they are supposed to make their decision based on the things they're hearing in front of them, that's presented in front of them, the law that's given to them by the judge, and then the facts as they are presented through the evidence by the parties.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when we're making our arguments, what the lawyers say is not evidence. That's an instruction they get. So like even when we're talking to them, that's not something they're technically, I mean, they should consider in terms of aiding them to come to a conclusion, which is what they're instructed on. But that's not, gospel to them. It's what the witness says, and if they believe the witness and all these things. So obviously there's so many different like courtroom dramas on TV. Like when we were talking about the confession, what comes to my mind is the Legally Blonde moment where, the daughter, I forget her name, the daughter confesses to the murder on the stand, which is, every prosecutor's dream.
Is that somebody would confess in the middle of trial? Well, in that situation, that's probably not the prosecutor's dream, because that's not even their defendant. That was the defense. Saying that was the defense dream, getting somebody else to admit to, I know my legal movies. But yeah, I mean, that's not, there's a lot in legal drama that is heightened because you want to make it more exciting and more dramatic. I mean, oftentimes the direct examination of a police officer in a DUI case is not very exciting. It's boring. Very boring. So if you have a 2-hour movie or a 30-minute episode or a 1-hour episode, you're not going to be showing. Those are not the things that you're going to be showing. The things that are real.
I have had a couple real life moments that I'm like, oh my gosh, like this like moment needs to be on TV.
Do share.
They often come up, and I'll give you a case where it was my first felony trial actually, but they often come up in domestic situations when I'm cross-examining the victim. And I don't know if gender comes into play from a male attorney's perspective when they're cross-examining a female victim. But from my perspective,
Mom, I like to propose a dinner optimization plan for 2026. Soccer practice every week. Get back late and you're stressed out about making something fast, but actually nutritious for dinner. When Ashley's mom picked me up, I noticed that she made Blue Apron. It came like a little kit, and by the time it was ready, I still had shin guards on. And it was real food, fresh veggies, protein, actual flavor. Take her from the younger generation. We're innovators, keeping a couple Blue Apron meals around. Not the worst idea.
Get 50% off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code LISTEN50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Don't give a shit if you're a male or a woman on the stand. I'm treating it based off of like what I'm doing for my client or whatever the defense is. But in this situation, it was a domestic. I can't. I was just laughing at it because I'm like, I actually ordered the recording of it.
Of the court of the trial?
And I do want to post it, but I can't because when I order it, it says like you can't post it anywhere and all this stuff. So anyways, I can't share it, but I can tell you. So in the middle of trial, cross-examining the alleged victim who is accusing my client of false imprisonment, domestic battery by strangulation. I don't remember what else. He was charged with like a bunch of charges. We basically won that trial because it was 5-1, not guilty, hung jury. And then we got him misdemeanors. So it was a great outcome. I was really annoyed because I was ready to try the case again. I was like, let's go. And he was like, no, I'm just going to take it, which was the right move, honestly.
Yeah, of course. A lot of times it is.
Anyways, besides the point, she was making allegations that, and she I think she loved being on the stand. I really do. I think she loved the drama she was putting on. And she was testifying that my client was keeping her from leaving the house. And I asked her, you refuse medical attention. And she was a physician. And she goes, I am medical attention. I literally stopped and I looked at the jury and they were all like straight faced. And I was like, did you guys not hear that? Like that was, to me, it was so funny. Like I literally started laughing almost. Like I think they saw that. I thought it was funny, but that was one part of it. But leading up to that moment, she was making like the craziest allegations about my client. So that's why it was like to me, maybe it was just like in the moment, but I was like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like she was just like saying like he was like grabbing her by the neck, strangling her, you know, dragging her out of the house. I don't remember what else she was saying, and none of it made sense. So then when I asked her if she like was seeking medical attention, she was like,
after all these crazy injuries she allegedly received.
And she was like crying on the stand, like actually making a drama.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, she was doing the work for me, honestly. I was like, this is gold. But one of the jurors believed her, clearly.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because it was 5-1.
Yeah,
so it's a not guilty.
But whatever. At the end of the day, I thought it was a courtroom drama moment, and I thought it was amazing. I was like, this is so good. And now like my sister was watching that trial, and like till now we always like make jokes about that moment.
I think the real courtroom drama comes from the unexpected.
Yeah.
I think that anything you're anticipating is not going to be that dramatic. The answers that you're anticipating that are going to sound the worst for a certain witness is not going to be the most dramatic moment. That the witness admitting that they did something improper, not really the most dramatic moment.
Yeah.
It's the moment where something happens and this was unexpected. Now, how does this change the outcome? I'll give you a perfect example. I was in a battery trial. It was a misdemeanor battery trial. The alleged victim was taking the stand. She was speaking in Creole. There was a Creole interpreter. She was explaining to the jury what happened. It wasn't a very violent incident, but it was a battery. This man had, struck her. They were in a parking lot of their apartment complex and got into an argument. They had known each other, and he did strike her. She's on the stand testifying through her interpreter, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the defendant stands up and yells at her in Creole, "You bitch, they're going to put me in prison for this." The judge asked the jury. I was the prosecutor. The judge asked the jury to stand up and leave the courtroom. The jury left. The first thing the judge did was looked at the interpreter and said, "What did he just say?" And she repeated, the interpreter repeated, they're going to put me in prison for this, you bitch, I'll kill you, whatever it was, something real bad.
Oh.
And the judge goes, "Okay, I'm holding you in contempt." And she looked at the defense attorney and she looked at the individual and she said, give me one good reason why I shouldn't put you in jail for 6 months. And the defense attorney and the defendant basically just said, "I apologize. My emotions got the better of me." And she immediately gave him 6 months contempt of court.
Oh my gosh.
And he flipped out, and we had closing arguments. He was not in the room for the closing arguments. He was downstairs in the holding cell for the closing arguments. There was a cell phone that was on the podium that was his defense attorney, while he was giving his closing argument, was giving it on a telephone so that way the defendant could hear the closing argument, but he wasn't allowed in the courtroom for it. And the entire jury saw it, and ultimately he was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 6 months on the battery to be concurrent with the 6 months from the contempt. And that was, you don't get courtroom drama like that.
No.
And, it's a case that goes from he said, she said to you have just opened up a case where I now can walk in front of this jury and say, the guy that violently just stood up and screamed, that guy, yes, he's the one that struck her. Yeah. He's the one that made her, as afraid as she was.
Yeah.
He hit her. This is where the battery is. And it was a few minutes and it was a guilty verdict.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like.
And it was, I remember that trial. That was legit. But
I would have hated to be that lawyer.
But the thing is, and it was not against a public defender. It was against a private lawyer.
Of course.
Who he like, I don't,
he's like, he's doing his
didn't
best.
care.
Yeah,
It was all he could do. I mean, I remember when the judge said, do you have any explanation for why you acted like that? The defense attorney looked at the judge and said, I mean, my client said he was sorry. Like, that's all the guy could say.
What could he say? Yeah.
But that's to say that in real life, there are certain moments of drama, but they just come from what's unexpected.
Yeah.
In these movies and in these moments when the prosecutor is asking a certain line of questions, he's ready for that answer. He's ready to have that shock and awe moment in front of the jury. And it doesn't happen.
No.
That, and there are so many things that prosecutors say in movies and in TV that they cannot say in real life.
God. So many things are objectionable.
I mean, making defendants out to be monsters, smoke and mirrors, denigrating the defense. There are so many things that prosecutors do in movies and in shows openly in front of a jury that they cannot do in real life. That would be a mistrial or would result in an appeal.
Yeah. And so speaking of like drama moments, the most famous, and this is, I think, a favorite for a lot of lawyers and judges, because we always make references for My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, of course.
And I think he does a pretty decent cross-examination.
My Cousin Vinny has some good cross-examinations.
Like,
yeah. But again, this is, and we're going to show clips shortly, but again, that is a fictional attorney in a situation that he was doing certain things on the fly. He was cross-examining on the fly and getting these great answers on the fly. You're in a homicide trial. Like, you're not doing anything on the fly.
No.
But he was, yeah. And which scene set up the scene we're going to show?
So the scene we're going to show is going to be when he grabs the tape measure and he's cross-examining the witness. I don't remember her name. Don't quote me on names, but he's grabbing the tape measure. I think it's 100 feet. He pulls it back and he asks her to put her glasses on and asks, how many fingers am I holding up, to show that she either had bad eyesight or her vantage point wasn't good, or both, which he was successful in doing. Mm-hmm. So, and she says he was holding up 4 fingers and he was actually holding up 2.
All right, let's roll the tape and let's see exactly what the clip looks like.
Mrs. Riley, when you saw the defendants, were you wearing your glasses?
Yes, I was.
Over here, dear. Would you mind putting your glasses on for us, please? Whoa. How long you been wearing glasses?
Since I was 6.
Have they always been that thick?
Oh, no, they got thicker over the years.
So as your eyes have gotten more and more out of whack as you've gotten older, how many different levels of thickness have you gone through?
Oh, I don't know. Over 60 years. Maybe 10 times.
Maybe you're ready for a thicker set.
Oh, no. I think they're okay.
Maybe we should make sure. Let's check it out. Now, how far were the defendants from you when you saw them entering the sack of suds?
About 100 feet.
100 feet. Would you hold this, please? Thank you. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. Okay, this is 50 feet. That's half the distance. How many fingers am I holding up?
Let the record show that counsel is holding up 2 fingers.
Your Honor, please, huh?
Oh. Sorry.
Now, Mrs. Riley, and only Mrs. Riley. How many fingers am I holding up now?
Oh.
What do you think now, dear?
Thinking of getting thicker glasses.
Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about that. Obviously, right off the bat, something that jumps out to me. You're never going to yell at the judge.
No.
As a defense attorney, as a prosecutor, as anybody, you don't yell at the judge. You don't talk back to the judge.
But what the judge did was improper.
True. Sure.
So this is also a good point to make is how would you have handled that, Brandon? Because for me, I would have been like, Judge, I need to approach immediately.
I would have just put my hands up and just looked at
What?
the judge and just been like,
What the fuck, guys?
what are you doing?
Why are you ruining my case?
Yeah.
What's funny to me is that the lawyer
In My Cousin Vinny?
literally put his hands up and put 2 twice. He's like, how many fingers am I holding up? 2. And then the judge is saying, let the record reflect that he's holding up 2 fingers. And then he goes, Judge, whatever. He yells at him and he goes, now how many fingers am I holding up? Holds up the same 2 fingers. That is such a funny movie.
That's an amazing movie. When I was at studying trial advocacy one summer, I got to take a seminar on My Cousin Vinny. And what it was about was My Cousin Vinny and jurisdictional practice, meaning how do you, as a lawyer, go into different jurisdictions and practice, and what are the things that you need to do differently? Every jurisdiction is going to have certain different quirks.
When you say jurisdiction, is it like different
counties, states, courthouses in general?
Okay.
Really practicing in front of different judges, there's going to be different procedures, different nuances, different rules. And in My Cousin Vinny, you have very much a fish out of water who is going to a rural southern town to practice law when he's clearly a city slicker. And it's, something that has always been interesting to me is how do you adapt your style and to fit where you are?
Yeah.
And for me, I grew up in New York. I've always had a bit of a New York accent, and I have heard forever that, I sounded like My Cousin Vinny coming into a courtroom or like comments like that because I moved down to Florida. I was practicing in Florida, and generally people don't have the same accent.
Yeah.
So I've heard the comparison, but the truth is, the accent doesn't always score you points.
Yeah.
If I had a smooth Southern accent, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
That scores you some points in front of a jury.
I
or
think so too.
there was a very, very effective public defender that had a very smooth Jamaican accent. And I'm sure you know who he is. And he, the accent alone got you points with the jury.
Yeah.
So there's certain intangibles that you can't always, you don't always know what types of points you're going to get with the jury. But I knew when I was getting the My Cousin Vinny, references, it was probably time to try to not talk with such a strong, heavy accent.
Yeah.
Try to adapt a little bit to where I was.
Yeah.
Which I think at this point, my accent's kind of fallen off.
No.
It's still there?
A little bit. I hear it sometimes, but
yeah. Certain words.
Exactly.
My wife says it when, and first thing in the morning when I say coffee, coffee's bad.
Yeah. Bad.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically a Floridian now.
Yeah,
it's fine. I mean, there's so many New Yorkers and New Jerseyans. I don't know, whatever, tri-state people here.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all blended in with us. So
I
guess we've adopted them.
I beat the traffic by a little bit of time.
Yeah, a few years. Now they've taken over.
Yeah, that's right.
But also another aspect of TV drama, courtroom drama, is that they love to make people there's any type of movie, show, whatever, entertainment, there's always some sort of protagonist and antagonist. And they like to make somebody the hero and the villain. And, usually defense, we're villains, but sometimes we're heroes. I mean, in My Cousin Vinny, he's the hero.
I grew up a massive wrestling fan, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was always known as the anti-hero. So I have been one that's grown up a fan of the anti-hero, whether it's Stone Cold Steve Austin or Tony Soprano or insert name of one of my clients. I am always on the side of, I've always been on the side of the anti-hero. So, whether it's real life or the fake life, there's something, I guess, that resonates in that. And
I was going to say, I feel like real life, my experience, and this speaks to certain people's biases, I think, but we are treated as defense attorneys like the villain in the courtroom.
Yeah.
I mean, we're respected, but they don't usually like what we're saying ever.
No.
It's like, why are you even talking?
Yeah, that's true. But I do find that people, when you have something to say, and if you are speaking with conviction about your case, even if it's not the position that the other side wants to hear, they can listen to it and respect it.
Yes, 100%.
And that's what's so important.
Yeah, and that's why that is so true.
That's important with TV and in real life. If the lawyers aren't talking with conviction, then it's just not, it's not believable.
Yeah, and respecting each other's work.
Mom, I like to propose a dinner optimization plan for 2026. Soccer practice every week. Get back late and you're stressed out about making something fast but actually nutritious for dinner. When Ashley's mom picked me up, I noticed that she made Blue Apron. It came in like a little kit, and by the time it was ready, I still had shin guards on. And it was real food, fresh veggies, protein, actual flavor. Take her from the younger generation. We're innovators, keeping a couple Blue Apron meals around. Not the worst idea.
Get 50% off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code LISTEN50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Yes, like that, just whatever you want to call it. But like if I'm speaking in the courtroom, I mean, we shouldn't be cutting each other off. We shouldn't be disregarding. But there are some attorneys that can't control themselves, and that's fine. But it's not best practice. So
no, I agree.
Yeah, TV I think loves to make villain hero like kind of an aspect of it.
Yeah.
Obviously that shouldn't even come into play when the judge is on the bench. In terms of like playing favorites in a sense. Excuse me.
I agree. I think that unfortunately, certain courtrooms can be more of a tough environment for the defense side.
Yeah.
I think specifically when you're talking about like domestic violence courtrooms,
you're
walking in certainly as that,
the
villain role.
Yeah,
for
100%.
sure.
And I've experienced this in every domestic trial or stand your ground I've been in. When I cross-examine a victim, I am a villain in their story. I am the villain in their story.
You are the villain in the story.
Not even my client. Like, I am the most hated person there by them. And I walk in knowing that. So, like, it is what it is. And I understand that. I honestly respect it. Like, if they feel like they're speaking their truth, by all means, but I have a job to do. So it doesn't really affect me at all. At first, when I first started practicing, I was like, how am I going to handle it when they like lose it and they have their emotions? And like now it's like with time, you kind of just have experience to know how to deal with certain types of reactions.
Right.
With the one I was talking about earlier, my first felony trial, I played into it. It worked in my favor. It was like over dramatic, but sometimes the drama is actually very real and the jurors relate to it and they feel it, or like the judge feels it and like they're making the decision on a stand your ground or whatever it is. So like, I think I have been on both sides of like, okay, it's very obvious this person's overplaying their story or whatever. They're being over dramatic. And then there are other times where it's like, they're probably telling the truth and I still have to do my job.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sorry. It is what it is. Not sorry. And
we're gonna have a whole episode where we talk about domestic and victims' rights and what those situations look like on both sides.
Yeah.
But that's true. I mean, there's the feeling almost that when you go into a domestic courtroom, you almost feel like the odds are stacked against you differently than in a different courtroom, even though the standard and the burden is still that beyond a reasonable doubt. In that courtroom, it sometimes feels like it's an even higher burden. And
for us,
for specifically for the defense. And I think that the state attorney's office, and the judge in the courtroom are the ones that are really in control of that and how that feels.
Yeah.
But that's been, I think, in all of the years that I was on either side, Domestic violence specifically, that's how that is. That courtroom is very much, if you're walking in and you're a defendant in that courtroom, you are, you're walking in with the odds stacked against you before, it's not an innocent until proven guilty type of feeling in those courtrooms.
No. And unfortunately, there's so many like arrests that are made that shouldn't be made in domestic, but they have to make it because it's their policy that somebody called for domestic.
Yep.
So they have to make an arrest, and it is what it is. There's so many other things about
and we'll
domestic.
we'll
tab this conversation for another episode. But back to the realities of the realistic parts of TV. They do get some parts right. Like,
that's true.
I think sometimes
bond hearings, right?
Yeah. And sometimes they do show the stress. Sometimes they show the stress of like trial. Maybe not the preparation or anything that goes on the back end. I think that's something they really don't show.
Mm-hmm.
But the aspect of like the stress on the attorney, the defense attorney, sometimes they'll show that because of the stakes. Like the stakes are so high, or like they're facing life or whatever it is. So that's something I think that is sometimes shown. Legally Blonde, they showed it, They did show the preparation, but that, it's definitely like I am exhausted by the time I start trial.
Well, it's months and months and months. By the time you get to the actual trial, it's like, let's just get this part over already. Like, if you are at such high stakes, we're talking about months of preparation. We're depositions, potentially, depending on the type of case. We're talking about experts. We're talking about evidence reviews.
Knowing different statements made by the same person.
Different part. And
that's also like, you have to know so well to be able to cross-examine someone. Like, you need to know it better than the witness.
Well, the rule of thumb is, you never ask a question you don't know the answer to. And that's definitely something when you're watching TV and movies.
Oh my God, they love to do that.
They love to ask questions they don't know the answer to.
Yeah. It's like, how do you know you're going to get that? And then they get it. They get what they want.
Well, right. They get what they want.
And then everybody's like, I can be a lawyer.
Right.
It's like, no.
It's not how it is. Nobody admits.
It's not
nobody's willing to admit
not even
they did the thing. Yeah.
Also,
I feel like almost all of the defendants testify in movies and in TV.
Yeah, that's like barely a thing. I shouldn't say barely. I've
had out of here.
I would say like 25% of the time is when my clients do choose to
if you have a self-defense issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like they have a fact that I can't bring out otherwise.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, well, this is the only way we can get it in. And
but there's just,
so much risk associated with it.
And then you have to pray that the jury doesn't hold it against them for not testifying.
Yeah. Which
I think, but I think most juries don't.
Yeah. I think juries understand that. And I think that comes into play with jury selection. We can talk more about like the process of trial in another episode because I think we can do a whole episode on jury selection.
Of course.
But going into like the labor of preparing for trial, do you have like a process for yourself, like where you start or like how you like, obviously like you have to prepare for depositions and take them and do all those things. But like when you actually start and prepare your stuff for trial,
I prep from the middle. So I like to prepare as prosecutor and defense. I did that as a prosecutor and I do that as a defense attorney. I like to put together the pieces of the puzzle that the prosecutor believes they have. And then as the defense, where are the holes? Where's the reasonable doubt? Where are the conflicts in the evidence? Where are the different issues that I can exploit to do my job effectively and defend the case? And if I can beat myself, that's how I know I'm on the right path. I have a good understanding of what the prosecutor is going to throw at me. And I think if I'm prepared, there shouldn't be any surprises at all for what the prosecutor or their witnesses can throw at me.
Yeah.
So I can be prepared for all of those possibilities, but I also look at it and say, okay, if I needed to get a conviction here, what would I do? How would I prove it in front of a jury? What are the things that I would say? And ultimately what that does for me is when it comes down to the actual trial and the prosecutor gets up and they give their opening and I've already heard those theories of defense because I've already been thinking of them and I've already heard some of their theme and I've already heard different parts of their case, I immediately get up during my opening and I can flip some of their case right before the case even gets started. And then I can be very effective defending the case because I've already prepared for their totality of the circumstances argument or, you know, whatever is going to be just the thought of somebody pretending or thinking that they may be guilty, that consciousness of guilt argument. I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
I'm ready for what's going to be thrown at me. And those are the circumstances where, and now that doesn't mean that the case that the other side's presenting against you is weak, because they may have a very strong case.
Yeah.
The state attorney's office may have a very strong case. And there are circumstances where, no, you're not going to be able to beat all of these issues. But the benefit of our legal system and our position is we are able to point out, we don't have to point out every single doubt. We don't have to point out that, you know, we just have to illuminate a reasonable doubt. And if we're able to do that and a jury is able to find that there's a reasonable doubt, we've done the best job for our clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes the defense is reasonable doubt.
Correct.
Sometimes we don't have an actual defense. You know what I mean? Like it's like another explanation or another reason for why they're saying this happened. Sometimes it's just that it wasn't my client because they cannot prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, right. And that's often what, you know, often the state attorney's office is relying on. If they take every grain of sand that they can put together and stack it up on top of each other, then the totality will give them this clear guilty verdict.
Yeah.
Well, you know, oftentimes that's not the case.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're able to show for our clients. And that's in contrast to TV and in the media, you know, there's so much shock and awe during a trial in a TV show that it almost is like, oh, okay, well, whatever this defense attorney was already planning on, now it's somehow changed, or this defense attorney knew all along that something was going to fall apart for the prosecution in the middle of the trial. It's just, that's not how it happens.
No,
and
never.
The thought that even could happen with how hard we prepare for.
Mom, Dad, I'm not throwing shade, but the whole New Year's resolution thing, kind of slipping, no offense. Anyway, my best friend Jenny's dad, crushing it. He uses Blue Apron. He says he ordered 1-pan assemble and bake meals and these things called meal kits. They're all super easy to make. He keeps yelling, protein and fiber, baby. Also, the food, we tried it. So good. So maybe check it out or whatever. Blue Apron. Get 50% off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code LISTEN50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
For trials, we kind of contemplate a lot of those scenarios.
Yeah.
So that shock is gone because we've kind of said, okay, if this happens, I'm kind of ready for it. If this happens, I'm kind of ready for it. You know, you can plan out things to the best of your ability.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I usually have an idea. So I don't actively think how the prosecutor is going to go through their witnesses and present this witness with this testimony to figure out, but I usually have an idea. Okay, they're going to they turn over all the evidence in advance. Mm-hmm. We review it. So we know that's why you're saying there's no surprises, because we know what they're going to present. And if we don't have it, they cannot present it. So why are you looking at me like that?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, I was I'm
agreeing with you.
Okay, I thought you were going to be that's not true. And I was like, okay.
No. I totally agree with you. But,
when it comes down to the actual issues in the case, I think early on you kind of have an idea of okay, this is going to be the prosecutor is going to have a hard time in this department. Yeah, we can agree. Sometimes, some defense attorneys will agree to prove certain elements. They'll literally be you don't even have to try to prove A through C, but we're going to be arguing over D. And then that's the issue of the trial, you know? So, it just depends. But I usually have an idea, obviously, most attorneys do, in advance of trial. And that's what you focus on in all of the depots or whatever. And then when it comes time to prepare for trial, I become obsessed with what the witnesses said in their depots or what the police put in their police report. I think that there's so much. And if there is a surprise in trial, that's impeachment right there. If you're going to say something that you never said before, you swore under oath previously that this was complete and true and final and everything was in this one document, and now you're adding X, Y, and Z in there. Where was this information when we talked in the depot 10 months ago or 10 weeks ago or whatever? Like, much closer in time to the date of the incident. So like all of these things. So that's why I feel like it's so important to like focus on like witness statements. Obviously, sometimes there's like video surveillance, or like they use like a picture plus like a witness statement plus, you know, like all these things, like what you're saying, like these little pieces of the puzzle that come together. But usually there's like points of attack that I see and I'm like, oh, okay, like this is where I can really get in there. So then I become like obsessed with every statement and prepare based off of that. So like that's usually my mode of preparation for trial. But I really am like, I think by the time trial starts, even if it's a misdemeanor trial, like a 1-day misdemeanor trial, if there's like, I mean, obviously it's not, the exhaustion won't be to the level of like a more serious like felony where I'm spending days and maybe even weeks like preparing, but it's definitely like an exhausting process that is not shown on TV at all. I like even if you know your client's not going to testify, like you have to still prepare them and talk to them about it. So like that alone is a whole conversation. And if they're like, I'm still on the fence, and then you're like, okay, well, we'll prepare you just in case. And like, this is what you're going to, you know, we're going to say it like this, you know, we're not going to say it this way.
Yeah.
Because they really don't know. They haven't testified before. They haven't been in front of a jury usually before. So that whole process is like, you're educating your client, you're preparing yourself, you know, if you're doing it with somebody, you're also preparing them and getting them on board and doing all the things. So it's a whole process, because even though we're not like pen to paper, everything we're saying is like what's going to come out of our mouth in trial. At least for me, I write down everything I hope to say, but am I going to say everything? No, but I need to like prepare accordingly. So for my opening statements, I'm going to write out my opening. And then I'm going to make an outline. I'm going to use my outline. If I forget something, I'll look at my outline and go from there. But like, I really do make sure that I have everything I need. So that way, if I forget or I have like my moment in court, I have whatever I need to fall back on. And I have my extra statement for impeachment for the judge or for my opposing counsel, or whatever it is. So there's so many different aspects of trial prep that are not shown on TV. Like even just preparing your trial binder. You know what I mean? Like there's so much shit. Like none of that is shown. None of it. Like,
right. No. Right.
I'm
rolling
tired.
up your sleeves, getting on the weekend and, you know, glasses on and a giant thing from Dunkin' Donuts of coffee. And you're just like, have a conference table that's just covered in papers.
Literally.
And you're just trying to figure it all out and put it all together. I know. I mean, but that's part of that's like, you know, that's part of the love of the game. I mean, that's a football coach loves going into watch old film and review.
That's so real.
Different, you know, it's the same. This is the love of the game. The preparation that you put in comes from that love.
Yeah.
And the love of the trial, the love of the case, and the love of defending people, that all comes together and culminates, and you're able to put together the strongest presentation moving forward and putting it out there. But there's no way a television show could ever like.
I feel like it would be the most boring thing.
It would be a very boring show.
Like, what is this shit that we watch?
Yeah. Be like a whole episode of somebody reading one statement. Like it's.
Oh my God.
But that's the type of thing that a whole case could hinge on. And for us, that's everything.
Could come down
living
to
in
one
the minutia.
word.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's literally the devil's in the details.
Yeah, that's right.
So I've had that as my theme in trial before.
The devil's in the details?
Yes. Like
that's one I've heard.
Looks like
that's one I've heard
guilty.
before.
I've definitely used that again.
I've heard that one before. I've definitely heard that before.
He's heard it from me.
So in essence, you know, would we still, I guess, choose this path knowing it's not as glamorous as TV world makes it up to be? Would we still choose this path? I can tell you, as somebody that was inspired growing up by movies and television to become a lawyer, that, yeah, I would 100% still choose this path. And I know what it takes to get here, and I know what it takes to be here, and I know what it takes to keep growing as an attorney. And I would still I would do it again. I
Me
would choose
too.
it again. I love what I do. I love helping people. I truly love being in the courtroom and love the fight on each case.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel
It's great.
like what we're talking about in terms of like the preparation with trial, it's like that is what makes it rewarding. Like obviously you're helping someone, that's the part.
Right.
But like when you do all that work on the front end and then like things obviously never go perfectly in court, even if you win. And then you end up getting like that not guilty verdict or like the verdict for your client that's favorable. Maybe sometimes it's a lesser or whatever, like, or a hung jury, which results in a misdemeanor offer, whatever it is. It's like, okay, I put in all that work. It's not for nothing. And it's not to say that people who are guilty don't deserve that work. Like, no, they do still deserve that. But that's the part that like fuels me to keep going. Like, okay, like this is meaningful. Like I'm actually having some sort of positive impact on somebody's actual life.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
so it's like so rewarding in such a like non-tangible way that I feel like there's like walking out of a courtroom with a not guilty is such an unbelievable feeling. Like it's so great, you know, especially like, I mean, sometimes I've had prosecutors say like, this is a not guilty and like, they know, you know.
Oh yeah.
but, you know,
I knew there were trials when
Yeah.
I that it was going to be a not guilty
Yeah.
and I still had to prosecute the case. I knew what it was going to be and
it is what it is.
it is what it is. You don't take the slam dunks to trial. So
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah. But also on another side of it is I feel like being an attorney in general has just made me grow so much as a person that I would not have chosen like any other path. And I mean, going back, if I know what
Yeah.
I know now, you know, I really feel like this is the most rewarding and challenging job like I could have ever chosen. And it was like, I think perfect for me, you know, like I said, like from the jump, I was scared of public speaking, but like here I am, you know what I mean? I'm doing it and sometimes I still get the butterflies or whatever, like and the adrenaline still going, but I'm enjoying it now. You know what I mean? Like
Even though it's not as dramatic as TV.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, that's everything that we have for today's episode. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe anywhere that we are being heard.
Yeah. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music. Come back with a warrant.pod. Make sure you come back with a warrant.
You walk in tired and hungry, one bad dinner away from losing it. You don't like to cook. You don't want more takeout. You just want something good. That's why there's Dish by Blue Apron. Pre-made meals with at least 20 grams of protein and no artificial flavors or colors. From fridge to fork in 5 minutes or less. Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.